Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Thomas Friedman. I'm your host for today for both the Living Better and the Green Deal stage. With me today is Stefan Kloosterboer from Hero Balancer, a clever company making buildings smarter and saving them both on energy costs and in emissions. But he can give a much better overview what they all do. So without further ado, I would like to give the floor to Stefan and talk us through what you want to say.
Exactly. Thank you very much for your introduction. Welcome, audience. I'm really wondering, can you please comment in the chats where you all are from? I'm really curious. I'm situated in near Amsterdam in Holland, working from home, obviously sitting in the garden. It's dry here and it's COVID-free in the outdoor. Can you all see my presentation, or do you see my presenter mode?
It looks like it's the presenter mode now.
Exactly.
Yeah, you should see
Excuse me. The full screen, you mean?
Yeah.
Oh, perfect. All right. I'm really curious. Can you please add in the comments? I'm really curious how your indoor climate is at your workplace, at the school you study, the office you work, or maybe you work at some other place. Can you please share in the chat on your right side, how is your indoor climate? Because what we see is indoor climate nowadays are hot. COVID makes energy saving less important, but healthy indoor climate more important, which is good, which is quite a big issue. I'll show you some about that later. But I'm wondering, Scott, can you please share that in the chat? Who's got it too cold in the office? Can you please add in the chat? Do you think it's too cold or something? Yeah?
Well, I think I can add for our location. I think we're in a nicely air-code environment, at least in the conference room where we are. I'm not sure on the flex hubs. I haven't properly tested that because we're mainly streaming from the conference rooms. But what I do think in general is that you notice that I know, for example, that Deloitte have privatized climate control to make sure, because of course, I think men have 33% thicker skin. So it's often also perception between men and women, like where you and I might find the temperature
for sure.
reasonable.
Yeah, that's very personal.
Might say like, well, it's too cold. So you're sort of stuck in the middle.
Exactly.
And I do think I've been to some schools recently, and you do notice that sometimes it can be a bit, how you say, that the air is not very fresh, or they've ventilated, but they've had the doors open for hours and probably wasted a lot of energy. So I'm very curious for your solution.
Exactly. Yeah, you're talking about schools. It's a funny thing. Schools said that where children spare a lot of time. Is my internet connection still correct? I don't hear you, but probably you will hear me. There's a lot of investigation in Holland. We have CITO-toets, so that's scores for children how they are doing. And what you see when the indoor climate is not that good, it's about a 3% children score lower. So that's quite bad. So indoor climate is a really important thing these days, especially via COVID. And now it's a top issue, obviously. Before COVID, it was just you got it too hot or you got it too cold, and that shows exactly what's happening in big offices or at schools. Indoor climate is never perfect. It's never perfect, and it is the oxygen for your brain when you work, when you study. It must be perfect to have to make the best performance at work or at your college. And how is that possible? Do you think? I mean, we have offices worth millions, billions. They're quite expensive. They have big installations. But the thing is this: your iPhone, your telephone. is hopefully you can still hear me. Can you?
We're still here. We're just
perfect. Okay.
We're just silently listening in the background.
Perfect.
To give you the proper floor. So I'll remove myself again.
Okay, perfect. I was just wondering. So it's quite a big issue, and lucky us, there's big attention for the indoor climate to keep us all healthy. Huh? So this is happening. When somebody's ill, now it's COVID, but it might be some other virus in the near future. It's spreading rapidly about big buildings which are ventilated or not ventilated or not so proper ventilated. And the thing is, please take a look at your telephone. And look at your telephone and ask yourself, how old is it? How old is it? It's 1 year, it's 2 years, maybe it's 3, maybe you're savvy and you got like a 4-year-old phone, but after 4 years you throw it away or you give it away to your brother or sister whatsoever. And the same thing about your laptop. Ask yourself, how old is it? How old is your laptop? And mine is, I think, about 2 years old now. My last one, a MacBook Air, was, I think it became 5, and afterwards it breaks or it's slow and you start to replace it. But in the office you work now, where the place where you look at this presentation, maybe you're in the garden like me, maybe you're at home, maybe at your office or at your college or at some other place. The climate installation which takes care of your health is very old, and that's not the big problem. The climate installation, they must work for 10 years, 15 years, some of them 20 or 25 years. But there's also a computer. So you got the climate installation on the one side, which gives you heating, cooling, ventilation. And on the other side, there's a computer. And the computer measures temperature, and people say, okay, I want to have it hot or cold between these times, your office hours, for instance. But that computer, that one is the big issue. That computer is probably 3 times older, 4 times 5 years older, 5 times older than your cell phone or than your laptop. The computer is typically built in, when the office is built, they put in a nice climate installation, they put in a computer, a BMS, building management system, which takes the control over your building. And when it's there, it's there. It works, it's warm, it's cold, or whatsoever. And after a while, it gets older, and it doesn't do exactly what we can do now. I mean, it's funny what you can do on your phone. I got my screen time, and it's like 3.5 hours a day. 3.5 hours a day. That's quite long. And so we use it extremely good. But the computer, which does the same thing for your health, or for the health of your children or your students or whatsoever, it's maybe 10 years old or maybe 15 years old. And it's not the oldest technique. So the thing is, it doesn't take care of your health perfectly. Your car is quite new, your cell phone is new, your laptop is new, your clothes are new. But the system who takes care of your health when you're at school, at your office, that's old. And that causes problems. What our clients face, we're Hero Balancer. I'm from Hero Balancer. I'm the CEO of Hero Balancer. And we see our clients come at us and say, okay, I want to save money, I want to save CO2 or whatsoever. And we take a look at the system and we see, okay, they're heating or ventilating during bank holidays or whatsoever, or very early in the morning when nobody's there, or late in the evening, or during the weekends. And now they say, okay, I want a healthy office. How can I stop spreading the virus? I cannot do anything about my climate computer who takes care of the health of my employees or my students. So that causes a big problem. And I don't know how good you know the installation companies in your country, or the real estate companies. They're quite, how can I say, they're not so innovative. They think, okay, you rented an office, it's good, you pay the rent, we're happy, but they don't take care of your health. And it displays in this way. We see when we take a look at the indoor temperature, and the same goes for CO2 or moist in the air, or small dust, it's not good. So what we see typically in offices, they're heating up too early. During the day, it gets hotter outside, so now sun is coming, and then the office does respond, but not proactive. Doesn't look a few hours ahead. What's coming? Is there wind coming? Is there sun coming? What's happening outside, which has implications for my indoor climate? And the same goes at the end of the workday. You're leaving at let's say 5, 6, 7. When you're quite fanatic and you want to be the boss, you would probably stop at 8, but your office probably will heat up or ventilate much afterwards. Ventilation these days is good, so you want to ventilate more than you would normally do because of the COVID virus, obviously, but you don't want to spoil energy, and that's happening massively. That's happening massively around Holland, and I think the same thing goes for the most countries in this world. When I go to Asia, it's extremely cold in some buildings. I mean, it's not comfortable. I'm from Holland. It's here. It's cold during the whole winter. But when I go to Asia and I go into a shopping mall or an office or whatsoever, it's freezing. It's not comfortable, and when it's not comfortable, we are spoiling energy, and that wouldn't be too bad. But spoiling energy is because the climate change is a big issue, and we cannot afford ourselves to keep on spoiling energy. And we're taking a look at good isolation, and in Holland we stop with heating with gas. We go full electric because it's more efficient and it's better for the environment, but still we are spreading. This is happening in your office right now, and I want to dare you, I want to challenge you to check it. Go to your college, to your university, to your office manager or whatsoever, to your facilities manager, and check when is the climate installation working, because on that we see on average we can save about 20-25% energy by just only heating, ventilating, or whatsoever when it's necessary, when there are people in the building.
And if I can just interject here briefly, I think not many people, even the office managers, realize that if you're talking about 20-25% of the energy cost, which and apart from the environmental savings on the greenhouse gases, that especially now during COVID, of course, most people will think that it's counterintuitive, that they need to invest in making their building more sustainable and investing in these kind of things. But if I think a lot of entrepreneurs, but also schools, hospitals, are now realizing, theaters, which are struggling because of the lack of performances, that most costs will be the office rent or the purchase of the office building and the energy cost. But it's such a sunk cost that they only see the bill coming in and just take it as a given instead of critically looking at it. And these are just, as you mentioned, this is not even including, for example, solar energy yet, I think. And you mentioned Asia. I remember vividly, for example, going to Dubai for conferences, etc. And it would be 40, 45 or 50 degrees outside. And I would walk in a shopping mall or in a hotel,
like,
and it would be 18.3 degrees, and you would be chilly, and you would
exactly.
That was pre-COVID, but you would probably catch a cold, and a lot of people do. And that's probably because they feel like, okay, because it's so warm outside, we want to offer you a cool environment. But I think even if you, for example, moderate it at 23 degrees at that time, that is relatively cool compared to the 40, 45 degrees outside. So that feels a lot more comfortable than that actually that 18 degrees and saves a lot of energy as well. And I think even the entrepreneurs and hotels in Dubai would be very interested right now in saving costs.
Exactly. Yeah. The thing is, we've got a lot of customers that they say, I want to save energy because of the money. Some say, okay, I want to save energy for CO2. But now they come to us, they say, okay, I forget about saving energy. I don't think it's important. Or I want to save energy because I lose all my customers and the bills rise and rise and rise. But it's interesting because they cannot do anything about the indoor climate. That's a funny thing. Eh? So what we see in Holland, that offices are partly used, partly not used, and they're all heating up like there are people. And when there are no people, you want to heat up a little bit more because everybody loses a little bit of heat in the building. So you're saving a lot of energy. But they cannot do anything about it because the computer that takes care of their indoor climate is 10 years old. It's like 5 times older than your cell phone. And so they have to ring the installation company. Okay, I want to this part of my building shut it down. Nobody's working. Everybody's working remotely, which works perfectly. And this conference shows it. But they cannot do it themselves. So the people responsible for our indoor climate do not have the proper tools. The tools are probably old, and they have a lot of dependency of other companies doing things for your health, and I think it's a big problem. And COVID shows it perfectly. COVID, I think it will pass away in, let's say, a year, maybe 2 years, but I think there are thousands, hundreds of thousands of people looking for a vaccine whatsoever. So we probably get protected within a few years. There will be other viruses. The one thing we know for sure, taxes are rising. So in Holland, we see that we have to pay more and more and more for our gas, we use a lot of gas for energy, but the same goes for electricity. Taxes are rising because the government wants us to save energy, so they make it more expensive. So that's another reason. So there I think a few important reasons to get a grip on your indoor climate. It's money, it's CO2, it's the climate change, and it's COVID or other viruses. But how do we get in control? That's the big question. How do we get in control? Because all the systems responsible for your indoor climate, for your health, they're old. Now, what we do is we connect to your heating system, or to your air conditioning system, or your Watso system, so your indoor climate system, and we push it to the cloud. So your computer, using bits and bytes, 10 years old, 15 years old, we connect it to the cloud, and then we can connect a lot of data points. So for a COVID virus, it's a funny thing. So instantly we can change your indoor climate and ventilate to the max, instead of let's say 20%, or depending on how many people are in your building. And now we can push it to 100% to have this thing. You want to ventilate, and you want to suck off all the old air and blow in fresh air. So that's good. And we have a lot of intelligence of that system, and our algorithm calculates how hard your climate installation have to work to get the best indoor climate, to make it the most productive. Nice thing is, in the autumn, we're going to start an investigation to a research together with the University of Maastricht, and there we're going to learn what indoor climate is the best to raise maximum productivity. There's been a lot of investigation on schools. There's a lot of literature studies that say, okay, you want to ventilate good, and then you have a good climate indoors, and you get maximum productivity. But we don't know exactly what is the best temperature in an office to make people most productive, to let them study the best, or for lawyers make the best. How do you call it? I don't know how it's called in English. Excuse me, but although the outdoor climate here is quite good, but we all want to raise our productivity when you're at school or when we're at the office, and that's what our intelligence does. Together with the University of Maastricht, we're gonna check what is exactly the best indoor climate. Which settings can we perform? Which can we change? So you have maximum productivity. And we do a few things. So we learn and predict the weather impact on your building. We understand how it's heated, or ventilated, or cooled, whether you have top cooling or air conditioning, it doesn't matter, and give insight to the users, because many people don't know what is your indoor climate. I mean, you're breathing constantly, but you have no clue how your indoor climate is. Is there a lot of CO2 in the air? There will probably be quite the same amount of COVID virus when there's somebody ill at their office. So it's very important these days to measure, register what is happening in the air quality, and constantly tweaking the climate system so you have the best indoor climate and the lowest risk on getting ill from COVID, or you lose your productivity. When there's too much CO2 in the air, you get sleepy and you want to have coffees or maybe a beer and want to chill out. Not going to work. So that's not good. And the same goes what I said for the COVID virus. So the results we see is we can reduce CO2 levels, CO2 exhaust, with a 40%. Same goes for costs. And we see, we don't measure it yet. That's what we're going to do with the university. But we hear the productivity in the offices raise because of the better indoor climate. It's more constantly and not too hot, too cold, or whatsoever. But it's exactly what people want. So because of our algorithm, which calculates how much we want to ventilate, how much we want to heat up or cool. Yeah, and we love to collaborate. We want to work with you. So that's a little bit of a sales pitch. Sorry for that, but we really want to work with you. But you can also check your local installation company, and please go to your facility manager and ask how is the building we work study, how is it ventilated, how much are we heating, how much are we cooling. Dare to ask questions, because that is the quickest win. That's the quickest win on saving a lot of CO2 exhaust. And it's very easy, it's cheap, it's free. Just ask the question. And even at very, very good buildings, new buildings, we see we can save energy because of our algorithms. But of course, you also can save a lot of energy just by tweaking the time you want to ventilate or heat or cool or whatsoever, and make it congruent with the time you work or you study at your office. So dare to ask that question, and pray for the best, but do your best to get the best indoor climate, because you're constantly breathing in and out the indoor climate, the indoor air quality. So it must be perfect for you. Yeah. So having that said, I'm really curious, do you have any questions, or maybe Simon, you got a question for me?
Well, Simon has already secretly moved on to the next session,
okay.
because we have another very cool sustainable innovation, which I think is also a story worth telling. We'll be hosting at 3 p.m. the session with Tessie Hartjes, the VP of Marketing of Lightyear, which I think is just like you, a cool story, because they started out with a student team, winning the solar race in Australia, proving solar electric cars could not only cover great distances, but it could also be a comfortable and stylish family car. So if you have time, I would encourage everyone to do check that out.
Sure.
And I sense a similar passion with you, because yes, of course you have a company in this, but I sense that it's driven in that you want to make a better indoor climate, but also save energy costs and build a more sustainable world. So for everyone who wants to get in touch with Stefan, I've put up your website. I've put up the English version. And this talk will be is being recorded and will be on YouTube, and it's also currently broadcasting on our Facebook if everything is working as planned. And
Good.
please find us there later. And again, if you have questions, do reach out to Stefan himself. Stefan, I want to thank you for your time and this very interesting talk. And I wish a lot of schools, hospitals, because a lot of them underestimate how much they can save, create better environments for their patients and for their children, because I think our all walks of life come there, but especially our children and our elderly are extra. We have to be extra careful for them, and especially also during this COVID crisis. So yeah, again, thank you for your time, and I do hope to see you next time when we'll be, hopefully next year, we'll be able to do offline event again, which is the tradition of campus party from all ages together, working on innovations like this, like on e-health. We had the CEO of Formula E, professional car drivers, but they're just as passionate about the climate and solutions for that. So without further ado, again, thank you for your time, and hope to catch you next time.
Thank you. Enjoy next session at Lightyear. Very interesting session it will be.
As my screen is freezing up, I'll invite you to talk a little bit more so I can end the broadcast.
All right. Enjoy next session with Lightyear. It's amazing. It's funny. It's so proud to be Dutch. There are so many cool companies in Holland doing really cool things on balancing the net or the electric cars. It's yeah, good thing. Good thing.
So while you're still with us, perhaps Prince Constantine was one of the other speakers on the global main stage. What would be your advice to him? Because of course the startup ecosystem is not only in the Netherlands, but also the Green New Deal, which is being discussed tomorrow at the EU meeting with Frans Timmermans, Ursula von der Leyen, Diederik Samson. What would be your tips to them?
I think he's doing really great. We're a startup growing quite fast. We're now with 20 people, but when the crisis came, it was we cannot do any installation, so we also decreased in the amount of our turnover. And what he said is it's really important to keep your startups, keep your innovative companies like Lightyear, like ours, keep them up. So they had the call, so the COVID loan for innovative startups. He put on a lot of pressure on that at our government to help startups out, and so they can stay alive and do their thing. So I think he's doing a really great job to show all our people in the government what's happening, and it's important to keep on growing.
Yeah, not just in the Netherlands, but all across Europe and the world.
Exactly.
And again, on that note, because I think we're on board time, again, thank you for your presentation, and hope to see you again next time.
For sure. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.